Hi everyone, I'm Angharad from Bright Rebel Coaching, and this is the Coffee with a Coach that I am doing every Thursday. And lately I've been talking a lot about resilience, which is something that I'm really interested in, and really interested in helping people, not just my clients, but just people in general, to learn more about resilience. One of the reasons that I got really interested in resilience was specifically because I realised that when I get stressed and I need better resilience, I start meditating. But I tend to stop meditating when I'm no longer under those periods of stress. And it got me to thinking about the kind of things that we can do to establish a routine, to establish a habit of things that we know will help us when we need better resilience, but starting to establish that habit when we don't necessarily need it at the time. And that led me to do a lot of research about resilience, and specifically coming across the idea that resilience is based on 4 pillars. And the 4th pillar that I've been talking about this week is fitness. Now, all my followers will know that I'm really keen on fitness. I like getting into the gym. I like going out for a run. I like powerlifting. I like doing a lot of different things, and I work out regularly. That doesn't mean that I think I'm some kind of fit guru. I don't teach people anything about fitness. I don't coach people about fitness. What I do like to coach people about, though, is how to make fitness part of your life. Because fitness is definitely a pillar on which our resilience sits. And the reasons for that are really manifold. They're complex, but a lot of them are to do with, there's a physical component. So obviously the better shape your body is in, the better able it is to put up with either ongoing sources of stress or a single traumatic event. And a really great example of this is my husband. He's a very keen cyclist, cycles to work back every day, which is about 10k each way. He goes out and does like really long bike rides at weekends. He runs not as much here because he's doing more cycling. Just generally a fit, active, healthy person. In December, he got knocked off his bike, which is a potential downside to being a fit, healthy, active person. When you're outside, you have to interact with other people that don't look. So this guy hit him off his bike and it flipped him over, and he landed on his hip and broke his hip. He is totally back to running now. He's back at like probably about 98% functionality. He's been back on the bike for a long time. And all of that is because he had a really strong fitness base to draw upon. So in terms of purely physical health, the stronger your body is, and by that I don't mean that you need to be going out nailing 200 kilogram squats or pulling a double-decker bus or whatever. I just mean like that your body is functionally strong. The more able you are to get over things that might happen to your body. So that could be just a small thing like going over on your ankle and getting an ankle sprain. It could be more repetitive kind of things that you do. So the more fit you are, the more physically able you are to deal with those things. But there's also another component to it, which is more about the way that our brains work. So when we exercise, certain things change in our brain and change in our body. When we exercise, we start chemical production of lots of different hormones. The one that you might be most familiar with is endorphins. So as much as I love my powerlifting, I don't really get an endorphin rush from that, but I definitely get an endorphin rush from running. At the end of a run, I feel like I am a warrior. I feel like I am amazing, that, I should be doing this 9 times a day. This is perfect. And that is that chemical rush. So that's a hormone you might most associate with exercise. But actually there's a whole load of other chemical changes that happen in our body. And then there's neurological changes that happen in our body. For instance, you can strengthen the pathway between the bits of the brain that help reduce stress and anxiety just by exercising. We change a lot of other things that are happening in our body in a way that we don't necessarily notice at the time or immediately afterwards. But studies have proven that if you don't usually exercise and then you start to get into a good habit of exercise 6 to 8 weeks later, the kind of changes that are happening in your brain and in your hormone and chemical production can equal the kind of improvements that we see in people with some of the best antidepressants. Now, word of caution, this is not to say that exercise can totally replace antidepressants, because if you're really depressed, you sometimes just cannot get out to exercise because that is part of the illness. So this is not me saying, oh, exercise, you don't need to go and seek any of the medical help. You don't need any of the medical interventions, because sometimes you do. But what I am saying is that exercise is up there. So that's for, echoing the kind of results you're seeing with people that are diagnosed with clinical depression. So if you're not in that category, if you're just like feeling a bit down or whatever, exercise is going to make those changes. And it's not just a one-shot thing. The more you do it, you get into that routine, you're seeing those differences, and it's actually seen in your neurological function as well. Another reason why exercise is really good for our resilience is because of the psychological changes. So the mental health benefits of having a regular exercise habit are really, really strong. We know that people that go out and exercise regularly tend to report that they're more able to deal with stress on days that they've exercised, that they feel that they have more mental capacity, that they just feel generally better. They report a higher sense of well-being. And that is one of the reasons why I exercise, because I like the way it makes me feel. When we talk about exercise, we're not talking about it needs to be, mega intense. It needs to be mega long. It could be going out for your walk. It could be your short 8-minute HIIT exercise. There's, different dimensions of intensity, duration, and the amount that you do. And obviously exercise, there's a lot of different things that count as exercise. So sticking on a Zumba YouTube video, obviously that is exercise. Going out for a walk, that is exercise. Doing a couple of squats in your bedroom, that is exercise. There's so many different forms of exercise. So when I hear people say, oh, but I don't like to exercise, I'm like, cool. That just means that there's loads of exercise that you've not tried yet. Because, for some of us growing up, maybe we didn't do very much exercise. Maybe we, our parents were not in a position to give us the opportunity to see all of these other types of exercise. So we can think of exercise in very limited ways, like, oh, it means going to the gym, it means running, or yoga or aerobics. And that's kind of it. But there's tons and tons and tons of different ways to get exercise. There's rock climbing classes. There are more exercise things, apps, YouTube, follow people on Instagram. There's so many free things that you can find exercise for. There's a much better access for most people, unless you're living in a really rural community, to access gyms and swimming pools and all of that kind of stuff. So the biggest hurdle isn't finding the exercise that you love. It's actually accepting that exercise is something that you can do, that is going to be part of your life, that you're going to enjoy doing. And one of the reasons for this is because if you don't exercise regularly, you just think, I can't fit this into my life. Because I don't meet very many people that say, do you know what? I don't do a lot. I've got tons of free time. Don't know what to do with myself. Do you? Do you meet people like that? Because we don't. We all think that we're busy all the time. Because the things in our lives tend to expand to fill the time that we have. But when you start to exercise regularly, you just incorporate that into your life. So for instance, I've had years where I've not exercised a lot. I've had years where I've exercised maybe 3 times a week. At the moment, I exercise at least 6 days a week. I quite often do a kind of an active recovery session instead of a full rest day on my 7th day. And some weeks I exercise twice in a day. Now it is easier for me because I no longer work in the Air Force. I run my own business, so I set my own time. But at one stage I didn't have a child either. I lived in a tiny room in the mess, so I didn't really have much in the way of housework either. And I told myself then that I didn't have time to exercise. So You do have the time to do it. You're just prioritizing something else instead. And that is fine to a point, because, God, we all have weeks, months where it's like, this is not going to be something that I can address because I just don't have the time. But for most of us, just accepting that you are going to give up, how many hours a week are you going to give up? So let's say 2 hours across a whole week. Right, so maybe that's in 3 or 4 sessions. Let's say it's in 4 sessions of half an hour. You're going to give up 2 hours. What are you going to give up? So I'm going to go ahead and say the thing that I think a lot of people could easily sacrifice is time spent mindlessly scrolling through social media. Guilty. Yes, I do that too. We all do that, right? And the thing is, the time that you're spending doing that is not necessarily the specific time of day that you could go out and do exercise. So, if you find yourself mindlessly scrolling through social media at 8:30 at night, you might be like, yeah, do you know what, Angharad? That is not the time I'm going to go out and get my exercise. And I get that. Equally, it could be the time you go out and get that exercise, because that could totally be 8:30 at night, could totally be the time that you go out and do a half-hour walk and come back in. It could be the time that you put an exercise video on or whatever. But it's not really about the time of day that you're spending going through social media is not necessarily going to be the time that best suits you to go out and exercise. Because the time that best suits you to go out and exercise is the time where you feel really good. So for me, it's generally mornings. I will make myself exercise of an evening if I really have to, but it doesn't work as well for me. I'm definitely more like just after dropping child off at school is ideal for me, or about 7 a.m. if I can do that. So find the time that works best for your body, which might require trial and error, but that's fun. You get to go and figure out what works really well for you. And then it's about finding, so you might go, 9 o'clock would work like a dream, but I can't do that because my job starts at 9 o'clock. There is no way I can do that at 9 o'clock. So it's starting to think about how close to that can you get? And it might mean having to make other changes. I would recommend, if you don't regularly work out, do not make your first change to be that you get up early. Because humans really generally don't like getting up early or earlier than usual for anything. Getting up earlier than usual to go and do exercise that you don't usually do is not really your recipe for success. You can start thinking about getting up earlier and just go and do something fun that you really, really enjoy, and then morph that into getting up for exercise. But think about how can you actually put that into your life where it's going to fit, where it doesn't feel too difficult. And don't do it every day. So this is the other thing I get with my clients. Oh, Angharad, I'm going to change from doing no exercise to like 5 classes a week. And that lasts until that first flush of motivation wears off. Because it's a lot. To go from 0 to 5 is a big ask. It's a big ask of your body. It's a big ask of your mindset. So what I want you to think about is, where are you at the moment in terms of how much do you exercise? And are you happy with it? If you're happy with it, if you're happy with your fitness, then that's great. If you're thinking, I want to change something up, I want to increase my fitness, think about how you want to really show up. So like if in a year's time you and me were having a chat and it was like, oh, dude, how often do you work out? And you'd be like, yeah, I work out this amount of time and I think that's fabulous. What does that look like? That is probably like your 10. Right, so where you are now is 0 if you don't do any exercise. 1 if you're like, I do a bit, but I kind of want to do a lot more. 10 is like I could do that for maybe a week. And even that might be pushing it. 8 is kind of I could do this for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure I'd carry on doing it if my motivation fell off or if I was feeling a bit run down. 6-ish is kind of what you want to aim for, because it's the thing that you can continue doing even if you're not feeling great. The thing that you can continue doing even when you're not feeling 10 out of 10. So think about, what would you do throughout a week if you were feeling like 6 out of 10? Because there will be days you wake up and you're like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Now, if you just schedule too many hard sessions, or too many sessions, or too long a session, that's how you're going to feel. So you want to put yourself at that kind of, what would a 6 out of 10 look like? So it might look like 2 pretty tough sessions and 2 easy sessions a week. It might look like 2 really fun exercise classes and 1 go out for a walk, or whatever. Think about what that looks like for you, because this is the great thing about exercise. Do that for 6 to 8 weeks. Your 6 changes, because all of a sudden what you're doing now feels like something that doesn't require a lot of effort to do, doesn't require a lot of energy, because you're in the habit and you're no longer leaning on your motivation. So think about 10, can't maintain that, I'm not even sure I could do it this week, never mind next week, 0, no exercise, 1, yeah, I do a bit, but I'm not consistent and I want to do more. Aim for that 6. Just really play around in your head with what you think that 6 would look like. And whilst everything I've been talking about has been really heavily about physical fitness, there's also mental fitness things. So when we talk about mental fitness, when we're talking about mental health, there's a real tendency for people to immediately think mindfulness and meditation, which is great. I am not knocking either of those things. But they don't necessarily look like the way that we see them on social media. So sometimes when I talk to people about mindfulness, what they think of as mindfulness is a very still based meditation kind of thing. But actually mindfulness is just about being in the moment, really appreciating what's around you, like being mindful. So, sometimes we talk about things like mindful eating, just making sure that we're actually paying attention and engaging all of our senses. So mindfulness can be totally associated with movement. It's one of the reasons why I like to walk, because I can really be in this space around me and really enjoy that and recognize that a lot of the racing thoughts that, inside my head is so noisy and busy all the time, to go out for a walk and just allow those thoughts to go by, to disassociate from those thoughts, to be able to allow myself the time to recognize that I don't need to be on that train of constant thoughts. I do that walking. Some people love to do the sit down, the full-on meditation and stuff. Whatever it is that you need for your mental fitness, for your mental health, think about how often you're actually engaging in that when you don't feel the pressing need. So to come back to what I was saying at the beginning, like, oh yeah, I meditate when I'm really anxious, when I'm really stressed. I tend not to do that at times where I don't feel that way. Partly because I've now discovered that the walking is the thing that does it for me. But think about those mental fitness things that you do. And also, in terms of cognitive function. So it's super easy to come in from work and be like, oh my God, I am just exhausted. So I'm going to sit and, watch something on TV or look through Facebook or whatever. But think about the kind of things that really get our brains going in a different way. So Sudoku, crossword puzzles. I love to knit. There are times when that is mindless, which I like, but there are times when you're paying massive attention. A difficult pattern means that you're actually really engaging. Reading something that takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. So I love to read. Please come and make friends with me on Goodreads. I think I'm Harrod B on there. Totally love to read. And I read a lot of, I'm not going to say trash, but I do read a lot of stuff that requires very little brain power from me. That is the majority of, I think so far this year I've read 72 books. And I would say at least 70 of them have been no thought really required from me. But think about reading other stuff that just makes you think. I've just read a book, I've just bought a book called The Good Fight by Leanne Davey, which is about conflict skills for nice people. So that's going to be my kind of thinking book. I loved last year, I read Blink by Malcolm Caldwell, which I was thinking about today. I love that. Nudge is another great book. Freakonomics. or listen to a podcast, just things that get your brain moving in different ways. And when we're talking about resilience, we're talking about mental fitness. Well, the mental fitness does the same thing for our brains as the physical fitness does for our bodies. The more we use it, the more function it has. The more we use it, the better able we are to cope with the stress that is put upon us. So the key thing for fitness then is think about it in many different ways, but to really embrace the idea that fitness isn't just something that you do because you want to look hot in a bikini, or you don't want a dad bod on the beach, or whatever. Like, I'm not knocking anybody wanting to work out because they want to look in a particular way, because that is, whatever you want to do, that is fine. I'm not judging that. But what I'm saying is, if you use that as the only reason why you do fitness, you will not see the changes that you want to see in the first kind of 6 weeks. It takes a long time. So if you're only doing it for those kind of reasons, then that's why people give up. And they do. Like, people give up on fitness all the time. We know this to be true. When you start focusing on fitness as something that really helps you prepare for the future, that increases your psychological, behavioural, physical and mental resilience against the kind of shit that life throws at us, that's when you start viewing fitness as something that is part of your holistic lifestyle that you will continue doing for the rest of your life. And if you're not thinking about fitness as something that you can do for the rest of your life, then you're already putting it in a bracket of something that you're going to give up on. So that's why I say, don't start off by going 5 HIIT sessions, 5 CrossFit sessions in 1 week, because you will be really sore, if not injured. But that kind of stuff just doesn't last. But actually looking at, I have 1 swim one day, and then I'll go for a walk with a friend on another day, and then I'll hit like a, body pump class or whatever on another day, feels a lot more doable. When you start thinking about the reason that you're doing that is to underpin every single aspect of your health, then, because you're not looking for those quick wins, you're much more likely to continue with it. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you to everyone that's joined me. I know some of you have joined and then you've dipped out, and you'll be able to catch a replay. And Suzanne's just joined now. Hi, Suzanne. I follow Suzanne on Strava, actually, and I always like looking at what you've been up to, because I'm nosy. So if anyone wants to follow me on Strava and Harrod Boyson, there are not many of us around. Please feel free to come and say hi. So I know that you've already got a great fitness habit. Hopefully you'll be able to watch the beginning that you missed and just think about if there's any other fitness things that would help underpin your resilience, particularly with your mental fitness, because that is something that those of us that are physically fit tend not to necessarily think about as much. And there's definitely time, particularly for busy mums, to think about how we get those moments where we just think about ourselves a bit more and really prioritise our mental fitness too. That is me for today. It's been super long. It's because I love talking about fitness, because the more people that we can get to be out there being physically and mentally fit, the better their resilience is, the better their health is, the better their well-being is. And that is effectively why I do what I do, because I want everyone to have good well-being. If there's anything you'd like me to cover on this, in this Coffee with a Coach, let me know. I'm probably going to be talking next week a bit about overwhelm and stress. So if there's something in particular that's overwhelming or stressing you, shoot me a DM and I can cover it in the session. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.